she is pretending to rest, but she is actually reminiscing about the intimate night with her husband. She knows her husband went out to meet his mistress today, but she didn't confront him when he said he had a business trip and came back so late. Instead, she tried to cultivate feelings with her husband. However, it only took 10 minutes, and her husband fell asleep right away. This made the wife even more curious about her husband's other woman, so she checked her husband's phone, but the password had been changed. Seeing her husband's hypocrisy, the wife got increasingly angry. She decided to check the car's dash cam to see her husband's whereabouts, but the recordings had been deleted. Suddenly, the phone rang. It was her brother urgently asking for his phone from her husband. Linda was curious why her brother's phone was with her husband. Her brother seemed evasive, saying her husband asked him to dinner and the phone accidentally fell in the car. Linda pretended that her husband was at a meeting today, not having time to have dinner with him, but the brother inadvertently revealed that her husband's navigation was headed to Yangping's place. This information undoubtedly gave the wife a clue. Her brother was regretting not slapping himself. Before the brother could explain further, Linda hung up the phone. She then checked the vehicle's GPS route online, and found that her husband had indeed been going to the same place regularly, arriving in the morning and returning in the evening. She tried her best to control her emotions, and would take out chewing gum she carried with her, to calm herself down when she couldn't contain it. But someone didn't want to let her have peace. Just as she arrived at the hospital for her shift, she received another mysterious package. The first time it was a headless pigeon, so this time she had her assistant open it. To her surprise, it was just a model of a house, but she knew the sender was trying to hint at something. The previous package had contained their family photo, with fluorescent numbers marked on it, so she took the model house and scanned it with a UV light, and found an address clearly written on it. She searched online and discovered it was the villa her husband lived in as a child. Without further delay, she drove to the countryside villa. When she arrived in the evening, the model matched the actual villa perfectly. She shone a flashlight and slowly entered the house. The fresh flowers on the table still had a fragrance, but the next moment, she was alarmed to find Dr. Wu, her husband's assistant, lying in a pool of blood on the floor. She was about to go check on him, when she heard her mother-in-law's voice saying he wasn't dead yet. The mother-in-law's gaze at her was chilling, making Linda's heart race. She knew the mother-in-law was being suspected as the culprit. The mother-in-law explained it was not her doing, that Dr. Wu was already in this state when she arrived. She said the hospital couldn't worry about the details now. The priority was to save the person. But when Linda tried to call for emergency services, the mother-in-law stopped her, saying, in this situation, it would be impossible to explain, especially since Linda was a well-known public figure. However, Dr. Wu's head injury couldn't be ignored, so they agreed to take him to the nearby rural hospital first. It turned out the hospital director was an old acquaintance of the mother-in-law, which explained her calmness. But Linda had many questions. Who had attacked Dr. Wu? To prevent the mother-in-law from incriminating herself, Linda took out her phone, saying she would call the police to investigate who attacked Dr. Wu. This made the mother-in-law anxious, and she said it was most likely Linda's son Joe who did it. She reasoned that the only ones who knew about that villa were her son or her close associates. As for why Dr. Wu was there, it was obvious he had some improper relationship with her son, but Linda was curious even if they had an affair. Why would her son attack him? And why was the mother-in-law there? Could this whole incident have been planned by her and her son? The mother-in-law brushed it off, telling Linda to wait until she could ask her son directly about what happened. Linda was increasingly bewildered by this family, and wanted to call her husband to ask him directly. But strangely, her husband's phone was turned off. What Linda didn't know was that her nightmare was just beginning.